this evening's edition of CovInspiration with Dayo Israel. This week we've been having our business series, and we've had the privilege of having some very experienced business leaders who have a lot to share with us and teach us. They have managed multi-million-dollar businesses. They've supported the development of many businesses. Yesterday we had Toyeko, the co-founder of Sahara Energy. And tonight we have the former chairman of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the chairman of the Nigerian South African Chamber of Commerce, and also the chairman of Nigeria's foremost human resource and management consulting firm. Before I bring up my guest, I want you to watch this video. Then I'll be right back. Please watch this video.
At the very beginning, I said that, look, we've just got to be a world-class consulting firm. We've got to be a firm that we didn't want people to forgive us for getting things wrong because we were local. We used to have these regular breakfast sessions at the Museum in which we're trying to advertise or market or present some kind of knowledge sharing sessions. And these were breakfast sessions whereby we invited, clients, various executives and so on to come and have breakfast, and there'd be a presentation, and then there'd be discussions and so on and so forth. It's going back many, many years ago. And in the very first one, one of them certainly, we had breakfast all laid out. And one of the chief executives of the old banks, talking about the old generation banks, he walked in and sat at the front seat, front table, and I was extremely delighted to see him. And I started to give my presentation and talk, just like an introductory thing to the program itself. And lo and behold, he got up and he walked out. And I really panicked. I thought, oh my God, what have we done? Right at the very beginning, we hadn't even started 5-10 minutes, and he sort of got up and he walked away. But what then happened was that later on that day, I got a phone call from him, and he said he wanted to see me. And I thought, well, at least he was calling me to give me feedback on why he walked away. And I walked in and he said, fine. He said, I came to your session this morning. I said, yes, I noticed. I said, and you left? He said, yes, I left because I had seen what I wanted to see. I said, oh, what was that? He said, look, let me tell you, the reason why I've invited you here is that we want to engage your firm to help us to go through a quality management process. We want to install or get the bank to start thinking in terms of quality and putting quality systems and all those total quality management things that you guys are always talking about. And he said, I needed to see what you're about. He said, so I walked in there, I looked at the layout, and I found that this is very, very well set up. I sat there, and he said, you won't believe what really did it for me. He said, I looked at the napkins that you had, and they were not paper napkins. They were starched white brocade napkins. And I thought that it isn't so much what the caterer provided, but what you must have specified and the kind of standards that you expected. And I looked around and I saw everybody all neatly dressed, the process that I walked in, the registration and so on and so forth. Everything was just spot on. He said, yes, definitely, this is the kind of organization that understands what I'm talking about and the kind of things that we need.
And ladies and gentlemen, my guest for today, Mr. Foluso Phillips. Good to see you, sir. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you, Israel. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do you remember that video?
Where did you drag that video out of? I saw it and I thought, oh my God, I saw that years ago. I didn't even have a beard then, I was looking much younger. Interesting.
When men were boys. And that video was very instructive and very inspiring, and it showed about the little things that actually does matter in business. So I want to start from saying, what were some of the things that you did right that made you remain profitable and sustainable, that today you're celebrating 20 years of great service to businesses on the African continent?
Well, first of all, we're in our 28th year, actually. Okay. And when you talk about being profitable, one of the secrets I share with people was that it took us quite a while to begin to get profitable, and it wasn't something that happened immediately. And it's going to be so difficult for me to sort of sit back and say there's one particular thing that I did that ended up being where we are today. There's a whole series of things that sort of built up one on another from one year to another. And what I hope that we would do at the course of this whole session is I thought I'd share our journey, the journey we've made at Phillips Consulting, how we started off, the various things that happened at various times. I know we've got very little time, but if I was to be forced to give an answer to the question you raised, it would be a case of being extremely focused, extremely long-term focus,
Extremely
really,
long-term focus.
and really, I know it sounds silly, but we really were not about profit. We were about just being able to maintain ourselves. And for me, it was got so involved and so enjoyed what we were doing that we sometimes forgot about the fact that we really need to make money from the process. But yes, it was that long-term focus, that patience. We were very, very determined to build an institution. And one of the things I share with people was that when I started Phillips Consulting, at the very beginning, my real personal, very personal vision was to create an organization that would outlive me. And there were so many examples that existed. If you know about Mr. Akintola Williams, who set up Akintola Williams Deloitte now, and the few times I met him, I said, "Look, you are my role model, Uncle." I said, "I would like to do exactly what you did, to set up a company, make it successful, and walk away and pass it on to the next generation, so that it would outlive me." And so, with that in mind, the kind of decisions I've taken over the years have not been aggressive decisions. They've been more long-term decisions and being very, very sustainable actions. And in addition, we're very focused on what it is we wanted to do. Okay, so you got to know what it is you're in for. What's your value proposition? What is it that you're bringing to the market? What are you offering people? I got to learn to do it properly and be an expert in it. Don't go all over the place. Be very clear about what it is that you will do and not do. Believe me, I've sort of tried my hands in a few things, got my fingers burnt, and it always taught me the lesson that, look, you had told yourself that you stick to the straight and narrow. And sometimes I swayed and I paid the price for that. But it's those things. You got to have a long-term view. Got to be able to work hard, get a good team around you, inspire your team, let them see what you're doing, let them believe in you, walk the talk, be a huge and great role model for them, make them very comfortable about the kind of things that you want to do, let them see joy in the work, create a phenomenal family atmosphere, because when people come to work for you, and it was important. At the beginning, sometimes I'll share with you, we struggled to pay salaries, but people didn't care because they were just so much into the joy of the work that we're doing and knowing that at the end of the day, things will come right. And we've had our ups and downs, but the reality is that we're still standing,
That's amazing, sir. I'm going to give you a few minutes to share with us your story, your journey, and the lessons that we can take from there. Then I'll come back with some questions.
Okay, I mean, I already started on that. Yes, I'm an industrial economist. I studied that subject many years ago. Then I went and studied accounting, became a cost and management accountant, which they call chartered management accountants today. Then I'm a chartered accountant of Nigeria. And in as much as my background has been a bit in accounting, I've used the principle and the logic and the discipline of accounting to help me in all the other things that we've done. When we started the firm, we really wanted to be a world-class organization. And in fact, the kind of the vision that we gave ourselves, that we wanted to be a world-class organization. And I mentioned to you about the concept of this value proposition. And the value proposition we had was, you see, it ended up we ended up saying that we want to build great institutions, okay? But really, we said to ourselves in our long-winded mission statement that we wanted to develop the competence and capabilities of people on one hand, and we wanted to design phenomenal systems for them to work with. And the whole idea was that if you get people that are competent and capable working with phenomenal and great systems, then you should be able to create a very long-lasting and wonderful institution. And that's what builds institutions today. You know, people that are competent and are capable and got good, sound, efficient, and relevant systems to work with. So that when you combine both of them, they actually they live for long, and that's one of the things we ask for in governments of today. When we set up Phillips Consulting, we were very clear about the kind of people we wanted, so much so that we actually defined the PCL person. We said we wanted individuals that were vision driven, they were very honest, very knowledgeable, obviously, had very high values and standards. The team players were proud. Even we said we wanted people that were religious, and it didn't matter whether you're Christian or Muslim or Buddhist. We just wanted people to recognize that there's a higher being that one must be accountable to, and therefore let it guide us in the things that we do all the time. We also tried to make sure that members of the firm protected the firm, in the sense that anybody coming into the firm was, we guarded the door to our firm very, very jealously. And I remember at the early days, no matter what level you're coming in, you can come in as an extremely senior individual and be interviewed by a junior member of staff. And two reasons. First of all, the junior member of staff needs to be very comfortable about the person that's going to come and lead. And the person that's coming in has got to be able to see who are those that I am going to be leading. And it showed a lot about our values and our style. And by the time people were coming in, when we're much smaller in number, you find that you literally talk to every single person in the firm, and your first day at work, they're all friends of yours already, because the whole interview and recruitment process was rather very tedious, but it allowed us to get the right people in at the time. And in terms of the work that we did, we were always very concerned about really engaging with clients. You know, I say consulting, you've got two extremes. One is you can write a fantastic report, beautiful strategy documents, which a lot of people do very well, and you hand it over to the client. In our case, we were more concerned about the activity of working with clients. And so we were at the other end of the spectrum. We were very activity driven. When we started off, we were so engaged with the clients that people used to think they were a training organization. We were never really a training company. It's just that in order to get people to know and staff to know what it is that they have to do and what we're trying to encourage them to do, we had to teach them. So you find that each time we're teaching them how to be great people and great organizations. And as a result of that, we developed this reputation of being a training organization and an HR company. It wasn't so much that. We just wanted to try to find ways in which we can get people to know how it is they need to behave in order to be able to be successful. And again, we empowered our employees a lot. A lot of our consultants at the early days, before we had the ability to Google stuff, we used to sort of say, look, you take responsibility and the firm is there to support you. If you make your mistakes, it doesn't matter. Nobody sets out to fail. When we all work, we all want to be successful. So when we fail to be successful, there's going to be something we need to fix about it. And rather than bashing you on the head, we sort of say, look, okay, where did you get it wrong? Let's fix this thing and let's move forward and make sure we get it right going on. And the foundation of our work was really about quality. You see, I say quality is about just meeting people's expectations. Therefore, you have different levels of what you call quality. And ours was that, look, what did the client expect? Did we meet that client's expectation? And did we exceed the expectations? And in the process, we discovered there's a lot of things that you wrap around the service that you provide to clients. It's not just the work you do, but the experience they have with you, the kind of engagement that they have with you, the kind of communication you had, and so many other things like that. And then another thing that I think we need to share is that a lot of people have asked me that, what is that one thing that that really worked for us? And I would say that we learned to manage perception. And this was very
manage
important.
what?
Manage perception that people have of you, okay, the way you presented yourself. And that's why at the end of the day, we got a pretty strong brand. You see, I met somebody many years ago. He said, you need to look the part to be the part. You can't be dressed as a fairy and want to play the role of Julius Caesar. Those things don't go well. So professionalism was very, very top of my mind. We always wanted to present. You see, and don't forget, when we started off, Way back in 1992, 93, there weren't that many consulting firms around, and the big firms were around, and they were very, very strong and very, very capable. And so when a young and small firm like ours turned up, when we started, only about 5 of us, we were really being bullied by the big boys. And in order to be able to play at that level, we really needed to manage people's perception. And therefore, a lot of things that we did focus on a high level of visibility. We would advertise in the newspapers and not really be able to pay salaries because we just cost. But it just worked out that the perception that people had, the feeling that they had, the way they were reading the firm was that, look, seems to be a nice global firm. Sometimes we're very impressed that we were young and we were new. And that also made some of them sort of test and focus on us. And all these things helped. I had some things that I call brand enablers, things that actually enabled our brand and helped to this idea of having good perceptions. We had when we eventually moved into our office, we really built a world-class environment. I call it the feel-good factor, because our consultants came in and it was a beautiful office. It still is. In those days, many years ago, we had our own in-house graphics team, which meant that we were able to, when we produced our reports, they were all very well packaged. There was a term that I use. You see, in consulting, sometimes the service you provide can't be touched. And so there's a way that you need to create an impression that allows those who are engaging you to give them the confidence, about the work that you're going to do. And therefore, the term I use that we tangified things, made things tangible. So you walked into our office environment and you could feel that this is going to be an organization that's going to act together. It was sort of tangible. The video that you showed. Our brochures were packaged very well. The proposals that we wrote, we took great pains to prepare proposals. And don't forget, when we started off, we didn't have all these fancy stuff that you guys now. We were not sending proposals by email. They were hard copy bound and photocopied or printed in color or whatever it is, in order to impress the client. And so all these things were quite important in terms of the tangible things that we gave. And we advertised a lot, like I said, even though we found it exceptionally expensive. Now, the game changer for us, was our sojourn into South Africa. Way back, our first trip to South Africa was in 1993, even before South Africa had its independence. And I won't tell you the story, but we ended up going into South Africa, or I did, and developed some great relationships. And at the end of the day, we ended up opening up a South African office, which helped us with our global network. And it shifted my mindset also from just being a Nigerian firm. And we started to think very, very Pan-African. We did odd things in Kenya, odd things in Tanzania, odd things in Ghana around the corner. And obviously a lot of things in South Africa. Like I said, we set up an office. And there's a lot of visibility on that as well. I spoke a lot, was seen a lot. And in the early days, Nigeria was an interesting country to South Africa. In fact, we were both very interested in each other. And I wrote on the back of that, which helped us to do a lot. And don't forget, one of our major clients at those early days was MTN. And MTN heard about us. Yeah, they heard about us being South Africa, and they wanted to carry out some analysis, some research, something that you call a power-based assessment. I remember they gave us that assignment. They wanted to know who was who in Nigeria, and they said, "Look, Phillips, can you help us?" And this was in the early days. They were still working towards making the bid for the license. And so these are the things that helped us a lot in those early days, that just helped to create that very strong view of a firm that's going places. We put our clients first, and I think one of the things that our brand did for us was it allowed us to focus on our clients. We paid the price because a lot of the consulting firms came poaching our staff, and they took a lot of our people, and that was tough as well, because when you're trying to build up this capability, and some of them sort of got attracted by going into larger firms that offered more money, and we had to come to an agreement with one particular firm that they wouldn't touch us because yes, I really had to, half pleading and half sort of complaining, and it was agreed that look, don't take anybody from Phillips Consulting anymore, because I was sort of it was a strong plea. But the whole idea was that we were, and I remember that particular individual. He said, look, FOP, if you can tell me what it is that you do to your people to make them the way they are, then I'll stop pinching them, and then I'll go and try and create them. And I said, well, it's just a different type of organization, and our style was very different as well. One of the things also is I found that over the years, the ability to maintain our competence was sometimes challenged because we started growing number. There was 4 or 5 of us when we started. We've peaked at about 160 before at a point in time, quite a large organization. Now we're averaging just about 100, which is a good size for the kind of boutique type of consulting that we want to do. We learned a lot working in different countries, and we still do that right now, depending on the kind of work that we're doing. There was this issue also about making sure that we could maintain our visibility across the continent and even within the country. We got a lot of aggressive competition from new entrants who were doing exactly to us what we did to the big boys in the early days. You never really can't take them over. You can't exceed them, but you become a kind of an irritant. Especially if you focus on one particular aspect of the many things that they do, and you can really be strong in it. And before you know it, you begin to eat into their areas. And we did that a lot. And obviously, the ability to manage growth. And managing growth is not so much trying to grow, but because you are growing, you begin to look at all the various other issues that you must deal with. And the most fundamental thing about growth that I learned, and we actually invested in it, many years ago, we were visited by a professor from one of the South African universities. And he spent time with us explaining that, look, you know what? You really have to build an institution. And that was a major lesson for me, that you got to build an institution. And the way he made it sort of sink in was that he said, look, if I had to buy your firm, okay, and I issued a check for so many million naira or dollars or whatever it is, and come Monday morning, all your consultants walk out of the door. He said, what have I bought? Have I bought your furniture and your laptops and your computers? Is that what I've bought? And he explained he said, what I must buy must be your processes and your procedures, your how-tos. And that's when we embarked on a huge project whereby we even engaged somebody to help us to document the way we work. So if you want to do a customer survey, there's a manual on it. If you want to do some kind of research or strategy preparation, there's a manual on it. If you want to run retreats, there's a manual on it. We had all these manuals that we were building up, whereby it was defining how it is that we work. So in that case, if your consultants do walk out on you, if you get new ones, it's something you place in their hands that allows them to learn very, very quickly the way you operate. And then you sort of get on with it. Obviously, they all will work out at the same time. But the whole essence of that was that of building an institution, an organization that survives in spite of the people that go and come from any point in time. And then another thing I must confess, growing up, and this is one that's very touchy, but it's real. I call it not playing ball, and it had to do with integrity. We lost several jobs because we just would not compromise on integrity. And like I tell a lot of people, especially my father, God rest his soul, he says, look, stick to the straight and narrow. He said, stick to the straight and narrow because it will always come back to bite you. It will always come back to bite you. And I've learned that because sometimes you feel you're missing out on a big deal. You look at all those millions and say, wow, we should do it. We should do it. But people who have done it, when they don't need it, they spend the money, it's gone. The kind of pain that it causes them, makes the money you received totally irrelevant and insignificant when you look at the impact of these things. And so we have stuck to that path. And I know we've lost a lot of work as a result of it, but we have no regrets because, like I always say, we're still standing. So I think in trying to wrap up, I say that one of the things we've done is we've tried to recruit people with what I call a very pioneering spirit, people that have the right attitude, they're ready to go with you and be with you, you know, as you go along. They got to realize that it's their own personal journey as well. And their journey might not necessarily end with you, but they must look at the experience that they gain, the things that they learn along the way that really is going to help and work for them. And I said also you got to engage what I call their heart and soul, you know, over and above the fact that they're coming in for the money. They've got to be really, really committed. You know, I define passion as waking up or having 2 to 3 hours sleep a day and still waking up early and feeling very energetic. When you're passionate about something, you forget about sleep. You just don't think about it and you don't feel it, but it's just so much energy that's built up by that passion. We try to create a lot of excitement in our firm in so many ways, and we still do, trying to make people very comfortable, very happy in what they're doing. I won't say we necessarily succeed because we've got people with different personalities, but it's something that we're working on all the time. In dealing with our competitors, the minute you come to me and tell me that the competitor is doing something, my probability of doing it is very, very low, because I say we want to do things different from what what our competitors do. But if we're going to do what it is our competitors do, then we've got to do it in a different way. There's going to be a different approach and a different style to it. And also I know from time to time we've had very bold and audacious goals. Even moving to South Africa and setting up office in South Africa was a very bold and audacious goal many, many years ago. And I think it's something that allowed us to grow in so many ways that one can't imagine. Like I mentioned to you, we're very focused on our systems and processes. If anything you learn, try and see how you build an institution. It's important. If you're in for the long term, build an institution. If you're a briefcase carrying consultant, you're a briefcase carrying businessman, no problem. But just know that, maybe after you're gone, that's it. The institution dies. We're focusing a lot on succession. As you can see, my hair has gone gray. I've gone very gray. And the vision I had about Phillips Consulting outliving me, I think we're well on our way to doing that. We got the managing director of the firm, Robert Dayo, phenomenal guy. Different personality to me, and that's exactly what we needed. I think we needed my personality for the first 25 years of Phillips Consulting. I think we need a different personality for the next 25 years, and it just goes on and on like that. But certainly I know that getting a good successor is part of that institution building thing, whereby you know that no matter what happens, the institution stands and the leadership begins to define which way it goes. So when you look at all these things, you've got to ask yourself, where's the value of the firm? When people come and go, what are you buying? Are we buying the documented methodology I mentioned? Or is it just the culture of the firm, our style, our attitude? Is it the proprietary tools that we have, our joint venture arrangements with firms? Because the proprietary tools are very important as well. The partnerships that we have, which are long-term contracts, the joint venture partnerships, which anybody can acquire, the kind of reputation we have, and the formula we have for creating very, very committed people because of the family style. We try to be family-like, but also try to be tough and disciplined. Robert, the new MD, is a tougher guy than myself, but then again, that's what we need at this point in our life. And we want people with a free spirit, people with skills, and with the kind of personality that is anchored on all these process and methodology that we talk about. So that's sort of a very, very fast run through of the basic philosophy that we've had in the firm. Because, I'm not going to tell you about the work that we did in terms of the different assignments, but it's the way we structured ourselves and created have created what I call a very phenomenal organization that has done wonderful things over the last 28 years.
Very impressive, sir. Very impressive, and thank you so much for compacting 28 years of Phillips Consulting into 28 minutes of presentation. But you talked about the fact that a lot of things you've spoken about is about people, your team, and all of that. But before I go into these conversations around your team, you talked about the fact that you have to be focused. But how do you keep focused when you're an entrepreneur or a business in an environment where you have so many opportunities? So I know that when you started as Phillips Consulting, there were so many opportunities. The market was unique and and diverse, and you could do a lot of things. And then along the line, perhaps you began to keep your focus on the main thing. So how do entrepreneurs or startups or businesses with a lot of potential begin to focus on their core?
Yes, always remember that when you manage your business, there comes a point in time where it begins to grow, and then the reasons why you were successful begin to get challenged. And part of the reason is your ability to focus and manage and keep an eye on things and really have control. When it begins to grow, you now begin to depend on other people to execute those things that you used to do. And the minute you start that dependency, people begin to fail you for various reasons, and you panic about losing control. Now, when you say you're an entrepreneur, I define entrepreneurship as an opportunity when you act on an opportunity to create wealth. We were very focused. Now, when we started Phillips Consulting, there was something going on in the environment at that time. And I share this with everybody each time. Way back in 1992, we had new generation banks that were just setting up. Guarantee Trust Bank had just been set up a few years before that. IBTC with Atedo Peterson had just been set up. You had the likes of Zenith Bank, and many, many more banks that have sort of, been compressed and consolidated over the years. But the point is, we had these new generation banks, and their whole philosophy was different from the old banks, whereby in the old banks, if you wanted to cash a check, you probably spend all day doing it. With the new generation banks, we were doing it in about 10, 15 minutes. And so there's a whole mindset that needed to be supported. We needed to train people. And the kind of things that we were running and we stuck to at Phillips Consulting in the early stages was this concept of total quality management, putting in quality systems, understanding customer service, understanding the essence of quality, which is meeting expectations, exceeding expectations, meeting specifications, and all these things we learned and we focused on it. And we decided that this is the way we wanted to go because we found out that it covered so many aspects. So we never were like an oil and gas specialist or a financial services specialist or a government specialist. We worked across industries. Sectors. And in order to do that, across sectors, okay, we never really in the firm had that sort of sector focus. And because we're able to work across sectors, we didn't need to run all over the place, okay? Because we just focus on looking at people issues and look at systems issues, looking at process issues, looking at quality management issues, and they're all very intertwined. The heart and soul of any organization, anything you do, trust me, it's about the people. And I've learned that. And you can come up with all kind of dynamic strategy and transformation and all those big things. At the end of the day, understand your people, understand the character, the personality, know how to develop their competence, know how to keep them happy because they're the ones that deliver. I had a conversation with somebody earlier on today and talked about the fact that we now have robots that are doing things. And I said, who built the robots? Okay, who built the robots? People. Okay, maybe sometime along the line, robots will be building robots, but there'll be robots that someone's going to build the robots that now build others. But I think that, talking seriously, it's that strong focus that you must have. You can't be everywhere and be successful. Don't forget, I never went into that kind of all over the place business. I'm a professional, I'm a consultant, and therefore we needed to be a lot more focused than just a general businessman. And trust me, even the general businessmen and entrepreneurs, you watch the good and successful entrepreneurs, they're very, very focused. They're not all over the place. You think they are, but they're not. And there's a particular core competence that they have, which helps them right through. And even though they might go and be doing seemingly different things, there's one competence that's applicable to every single thing that they're doing. And that's what makes them strong. The person might have the skill of actually being able to communicate and to sell. So he can sell across industries. You might have people that have a lot of energy, and therefore you can exert energy across all industries. You might have somebody that's got the skill of being very process driven, very particular, very precise. And no matter what kind of industry he is in, he applies that particular skill. So you look at entrepreneurs, they're not all over the place. There's something that is central in all the things that they do, you know.
And you talked a lot about, you shared with us the experience you had when your staff were being poached. But then also you talked about, putting systems around what you were doing, creating a manual for everything. How were you able to theft-proof your ideas, your systems, your processes from being poached by competitors or being taken away by staff that would left the organization? How were you able to manage that?
Things were taken all the time. And you see, you don't worry about it. Let me tell you another thing. There is nothing on strategy that has not been printed. There's nothing on a strategic approach in one industry or another that if you search wide enough and hard enough, that you don't find a book that tells you about it. But you tell me the ability of people to implement and to execute. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where there's a difference in ability. So we've had situations where our guys have taken our proposals, they've taken our procedural manuals, they've taken all those things with them, okay? But the thing is, some of them have failed to execute it the way we did.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. It's the same thing when you poach a consultant. I have had somebody come to me and say that, look, FOP, yes, I know we took this person from you, but I'll be honest with you, I'm extremely disappointed at that person. And I said, it wasn't about that person. That's the mistake you made. It was the environment in which that person was working, the team that person worked with, the philosophy that the firm had, the kind of ways in which things were done, the whole value chain of service and activity that person was involved in, whereby he or she was just a component of it. But going out to see you as the client, you have the false impression that person was the beginning and the end of everything. Yeah. So when you pull them out of the system, they begin to fail.
They can't perform.
So,
yes. This is very insightful, sir. I also wanted to speak to you about recruitment and finding the right people. You deal with a lot of multinationals that have resources. For many of the emerging generation entrepreneurs who are listening to this, risk takers who have come out to start up an idea, what is your lesson during your early years in terms of building a team that you can share with us?
Say that again. I missed that.
Your early years less experience. What were the lessons that you learned in your early years in terms of building a team without that very high budget? Now, everybody wants to come to Phillips Consulting. You have a lot of money. You have resources. You don't have to deal with paying salaries. But, at those early stages of your business, how were you able to recruit people who believed in the vision and grew with you?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's a very, very valid question, because when I left, when I started Phillips Consulting, I was barely about 38 years old or so, and so the guys that came with me were in the early 20s, if so, and they were just excited about coming to consulting. And they were excited of coming into this totally new field. So that excitement was there. I must confess that they were young enough to feel that they had nothing to lose. Some were still living with their folks, so the pressure of survival was not that much. And it was just a very, very exciting time. They were learning a lot, and they were smart people as well. And so, again, I say to you, when you're starting off, you've got to get people who are committed, people who can see the vision that you have. And please be warned that they might not be with you that long. But the point is, what value do people offer whilst they are with you? What do they do when they are with you? I used to feel very, very peeved and very annoyed when people sort of decided they were going to resign. But I so outgrew that when I realized that, look, it should never be that way. They will come and they will go. And then, like I said, it was important to build an institution that sort of would stand the test of time. So to answer your question, we just got people that were committed. You could always tell. And I knew the commitment was there, like I said, in the very, very early years when we really struggled to pay salaries. people wouldn't worry. I tell people, and this is the honest truth, there's a time at the early days, maybe in the first year or second year or so, when it was time to pay salaries, we would decide on a Friday who was going to get any money. So the guy who was married always got priority because he's got a wife and a kid at home. And I remember my personal assistant, like my secretary, poor girl, she used to come to me and say, well, I used to say, well, what do you need for the weekend exactly? I've got to do my hair, do my nails, and do all these things. And then I need transport money to come back in on Monday morning. It was literally that tight sometimes, But again, it was done with a lot of commitment from the people. So you've got to, and I'll give examples. There were some people that came and wanted to join the firm, and they realized that, look, no, we're not ready for all this. I'm not ready for any developmental involvement in your firm. If you can't come in and pay me my money, then I don't need to know. And I very, very gladly sort of say to them, do find your way, because we need people that are committed. Like I said, I need to engage your heart and soul. And if I can't do that, then we really wouldn't make the kind of progress that we need.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Another thing that you talked about, bless you, sir.
Thank you.
There's a lot of businesses that have emerged after you got on the scene. A lot of business, a lot of consulting firms, many of them doing very well. The big four as well, they're also thriving. But you have remained relevant, and Phillips Consulting is thriving. Is there any sustainability and relevance secret that we can take away that you haven't shared already?
Well, I think we've got to look at things about the brand. One thing I will say is that I personally did get around a bit. I regarded myself as the chief marketing officer for the firm, and I acted that role. I was all over the place. Right from the beginning, it wasn't so much a cheap hustle, but just was always there to knock on doors and do things. And another thing that I mentioned was that because we got into recruitment, and because we got into training, we were forced to be in the newspapers all the time, either to advertise the training program we were going to hold, or we advertise recruitment that we're going to do. And even when we were advertising training, it was usually a training to take executives to South Africa or to take executives to the United States for executive training. So what people were seeing in the newspaper was a very high-profile organization training high-level executives, recruiting high-level executives, and that itself was some kind of a natural advertisement, okay, for the for the firm, which helped us in passing out the message. And like I said, I was out there. I think I attended every event, and that's why I got so close to the Nigeria Economic Summit after a while, because I attended all the summit, was very, very keen on participating in the early days when we were doing the Vision 2010 and all those early summit engagements. One learned a lot just sitting with the big boys. Don't forget, at that time we were small boys, and we looked at the big boys, and we were scribes and we were facilitators, moving from one room to another when the summit was on. And all these things mattered a lot, because at the end of the day, you sort of look around you and you got this phenomenal network of people that you just know. And I always advise my people, I advise anybody else, stay connected to your generation, spread your network. You see, because as your generation moves higher and higher and higher in the system, which will happen, then you move along with them. And so when you're able to sit back and say, I know this person or that person, or you want to try and do some leveraging, so to speak, there are people that you've met along the way. Some people you've known directly and you've talked to all the time. Some people who you see and just say hi to. Some people who don't say anything to you at all, but they see you. And over the years, you're just part of one very this large virtual family. And you can actually play on that and take advantage of it. So I think there was a natural selling process that took place. And like I said, I really hit the road. I was out there talking to a lot of people and getting known and encouraging my people to do the same.
You talked about long-term focus, so you were extremely long-term focused from day one. Could you be a bit more specific? What were some of the long-term long-term plans or action that you took?
You won't believe it. The long-term action and mindset that I had was just to exist and just carry on. And like I said to you, I just wanted to build a firm that would outlive me, and therefore, I was never really very gung ho. You know, I spent so much money back into the firm, and I remember once, in a near personal note, when we moved from my initial offices, and we moved to UBA House. We've been in UBA House for a while, for about what 20. We moved to UBA House in the year 2000, 1999, 2000. We've been there about 27 years now, probably the longest tenant. But when we moved there, a lot of people and a few friends, maybe one or two relatives, thought, that I was mad. Said, why on earth would you spend that kind of money? And it was like, with the kind of rent you're paying, you could go and get yourself a much smaller place and buy the property, and the property is yours, and et cetera, et cetera. I said, no. I said, first of all, I wanted a world-class property. I wanted a world-class setting, and we achieved that. I wanted us to be operating at a level that would give our clients confidence when they come in. And I know they did. And I know you walked into our offices and you was like, okay, these guys are in there. Now, I could have just taken the money and just built myself a few houses, but it wouldn't have served me in the long term, because I look at the situation now and I feel that, look, one has invested so much in creating value. We've employed people, we've employed families, because for each person you employ, it's a family that you're engaging. We've got a huge alumni of people out there. Because, I think over the years, we must have had about 150, maybe 200 people have gone through our doors, because there was a time we were in and out. But the point is, they're all our ambassadors. And today we see the benefit of all that. So being long-term was something for me that I just had at the back of my mind. So there was no end date. My end date was not, okay, when you retire, that is it. My end date was that, look, this firm has got to be there much longer after we're gone. And I said, look around you, Coopers and Labrand and Pricewaterhouse and all those companies, even the commercial companies like your Guinness and your BMWs, they've all been around for years and years and years. And there's a certain mindset. I had a person who wanted to partner with me. And after an attempt for about a few months, he said, look, I'm not ready for all this, because, look, you're employing all these people. He said, I can't be bothered to be paying salaries. I just want enough money to pay myself and, one little secretary there, and that's okay. I can't be working for these people, because in the initial date, it's like you're working for your staff, because you're the one going out there getting the work, and at the end of the day, you got to pay them. But it's the mindset that you have, and that's what I mean when I say you got to have a long-term view. It's not about today. The payback is way down the line, and when it does come, it's something that is satisfying the soul.
Before I ask my next question, I'm going to take a few questions from the audience so that we can make it as engaging for them as well. I have a question from Dayo. Thank you, Akinson. Akinson says this is really an insightful session. So much to jot down. I couldn't even write down questions. I'm just writing points out myself. Dayo says, how do you find your competence?
Yeah, another question. I think I know this person called Dayo Lee, but I think the competence comes from your natural self. Let me try and see how I can explain this. I have a very close friend who is a wonderful salesman, and his selling skills just comes from his ability to engage you in conversation all the time. And in therefore engaging you, he's talking to you all the time. He's probing, and he's finding out, and he's interpreting. And after a while, the guy just discovered that was his competence. Now, with that skill of communication, of insightful thinking, you then ask yourself, how can I apply this? And where can I apply it? It's almost like understanding what we call the disc theory, whether a person has a dominant personality, or whether he has a communicative personality, or a personality that's all about rules and regulations. Each one of us has this particular strong aspect to us. And it is that aspect that defines the kind of way in which we do our work. So a very aggressive doctor and a very quiet doctor or dentist would do their job in two different ways. And the one that is always successful will always be the one that is kinder to people. So the competence, the competence you have lies a lot, ties in a lot with the kind of character that you have. Your character, you find, begins to define your competence, and it gives meaning to your competence. So for me, competence is just that ability, that innate thing that you have in you, which you then become so good at, depending on the particular profession that you've chosen. It's the ability to give more value to your chosen profession, and therefore makes you successful in doing it. And some characters are suitable for some jobs. A very aggressive person who's a jet fighter pilot, okay, will take his aggressive attitude and maybe his precision skills as well and become a great pilot, a great jet fighter pilot going and bombing people. And that's a huge and phenomenal competence he has. On the other hand, you don't want somebody flying a passenger aircraft who has the style of a jet fighter pilot, who is very aggressive, and he would see a cloud and wouldn't care, and you go through it, and it's all bumpy. What I'm saying is that that aspect of a personality the adds up to creating a kind of competence that you have. It's a bit difficult for me to explain beyond that, but certainly your competence is something that helps to give value to the things that you do.
I have a question from Mr. Sholake from Instagram, so I can project it on here. It says, how did you handle succession planning, sir? What were the skill sets you looked out for before stepping down? And then I have two questions from Daniel Abankole Afilaka. Should I ask the three questions together and perhaps you can respond as we wrap up?
Okay, we can try that. One is about succession. Okay. Then
yes, succession. What were the skill sets you looked at for? The next one I can project says, how do you survive in a country whose service sector is all but still in its infancy? Essentially, how do you excel at a service organization in a country that is all but agrarian? That's on the screen.
That is all what?
It's on the screen, but agrarian.
Okay. All right. Yes, I hear you.
I have. Let me read the third one, and I think I have one more from Adejuma. This one is also on the screen. It says, how do you recruit and retain experts in a country where staff loyalty or remuneration is rarely commensurate with the value placed on professionalism?
That's a tough one.
Okay. And I have a final one.
Okay, let's do the succession one very, very quickly. Because I've always had this thing about succession. It's always been at the back of my mind. I've always thought about it for quite a long time. And as I got older, it niggled me more and more. And it got to a point where I said to myself, look, you really must do something about it. And you appreciate that it's time to move aggressively on succession issues when you find out that all the companies that you begin to go to try and find work, there are people that literally you walk into the office, they're nearly prostrating for you, sort of indicating that, hey, old man, it's time for you to move on. So I was very, very eager and had it in the back of my mind that we needed to do that. In terms of the kind of competence I need, the person that we got now, Robert Taiwo, I was very pleased about the selection for Robert. We talked for over a year. And we had several meetings, several sessions, lunch sessions, coffee sessions, drink sessions. And gradually, I just realized that, look, this is the kind of personality that I think would work for me. And is the kind of individual that would not, and give him credit. He would tell you that he's not going to fit into my shoes. He's going to try and define his own shoes. But certainly, I realized that for the stage that we're going to get into for the firm, he had the right personality. So the skill set was something that let me explain something. Even when I had chats with Robert, I said that I needed him to be less of a consultant and more of a leader. I wasn't looking for consultant skills. You can always buy those skills. You just buy a good consultant who's done enough work. But there are softer issues about leadership that was important, and I needed to see that in the individual, and that's what I searched for. In terms of the service sector, I think we all realize that no matter how successful your organization is, especially when you are either a manufacturing company or a production company or a company that's dealing with hard issues, you still need the service sector because it's almost like the lubricant to all the things that you do. I talked a lot about people. You need somebody that's working in that kind of sector to help with people issues. You talked about financial matters. You need somebody in that kind of area to help you with your financial, the things you've got to deal with financially. You talk about people in banking. All those things that you regard as service sector, they are a complement to the hardcore things that most other people try to deal with. And that's why you find that when people rise up in organizations, more and more they move away from that core thing that they used to do of being an analyst or a core bank or whatever. And you're moving more into managing people and managing strategy. And all these things begin to move more into this service type of area. Because the hardcore nitty-gritty stuff you leave far behind and let others do it, and then they grow out of that into other areas. Which was the third question? I tried to scribble it down.
How do you recruit and retain experts in a country where staff loyalty or remuneration is rarely commensurate with the value placed on professionalism?
Oh, yes, that's a tough one. And, honestly, the person who has the answer to that will become a billionaire for years. One thing that I say about trying to reconcile staff remuneration and commitment, there's a statement I always make. When you join an organization, on your first day, you are so gung-ho about giving value. You don't need to be motivated. Your first day at work, you don't need to be motivated because you come highly motivated on your first day at work. But I bet you that by the time you spend a month, your level of motivation has gone down. So the challenge we give organizations is not to learn how to motivate people. No, it's not what you have to do. It's how not to demotivate people. Because most of the time when people join you, they go and begin a process of demotivation. They get there, the expectations are not met. The wonderful things you say you're going to do don't happen. They meet people that really don't work well with them. They come in and they see the managing director or somebody that's like a role model, and they're all excited about that individual, but they get into the organization and discover that the person who manages them has got a personality that is totally different from that of the person you admired while you came to the business. So the challenge we have is about trying not to demotivate people. So when you now get into issues about, am I being paid enough? Is the remuneration right? We got to begin to look into areas of supply and demand. If there are loads of you, then there's a lot of you, and then it's not going to cost me much to retain you. If there are few of you with the kind of skills that we're looking for, then I put a premium on it. And the more important you are to me, the more the value that I will place in terms of retaining you and hopefully trying to keep you engaged. You can never say, this is the right amount of money or remuneration that you need to give. And let me tell you something else about remuneration. Never look at remuneration in terms of dollars or naira. You've got to be able to step back and look at what I call a basket of issues, a basket of gifts and a basket of payment that you give people, trying to make sure that you give them what is important to them when they are in their particular life cycle. A young man comes in and he might not worry too much. The minute you start getting married and you start having kids, the kind of financial or other remuneration that you require changes. Maybe it is health because your children that you have. There comes a stage where the children are growing up and they're in school, and maybe at that point you need hard cash. There comes a point in time where you want to think about building a house. Therefore, the kind of things you need are different again. And that's why you sometimes, if you have very sophisticated organizations, you can't compare anybody's remuneration with another, not in terms of Naira and Kobo, but you look at the package. Okay, there's no point me offering somebody a free air ticket as part of your annual benefit if the person's husband or wife works in the airline industry, because I can get my 10% or low price tickets. So it's about relevance. And if you want to get sophisticated in remunerating your people, you got to sit down and do a deal with each person. What's important? And you try and see whether you can translate that to some figure. So that's the way I see issues about remuneration. Retaining people, you can't win that battle. People have different things that they want at different points in life, and what you must learn to do, which I try to do always, is whenever anybody's going, I say, look, all the best. We will support you. It is where you are in your life, and why would I stop you from moving forward for my selfish reasons? And we've got to try and help people to be successful so they can be useful to us in the future.
Absolutely. I'll take this question. JL Adejumo says, my question is this. How was starting up for you as a consultant? How did you position yourself to penetrate the market of consulting for businesses, which is very saturated and tough to enter? I think it changed the question because I saw, okay, so what were the skill sets? Yeah, I think that's the question. How was starting up for you as a consultant, and they will wrap it up afterwards.
Okay, let me tell you, what helped us at Phillips Consulting was identifying, and some of you might not know about it, and when I even mentioned to some people, they roll up their eyes, but we were able to hone in on one particular product, a particular philosophy, which was relevant at that point in time. And in my old language, it was called total quality management. Now, you're going to take some really old people to understand what that was about. But TQM, which is the term we use, was very, very new. It was very relevant and very, very global. And we found out, and this was introduced to us by another good friend of ours from the United States, and we just grabbed hold of it. And lo and behold, we developed so much expertise in TQM. And because it was such a globally relevant subject, we found out that ExxonMobil at the time, Shell at the time, even your GT banks that were focusing on quality management systems, and other banks, Zenith, all the work that we did, Diamond Bank, all banks that some of them don't exist today, it was all based on this concept of total quality management. Sort of a huge field, and some of you can go and look it up go and Google it and understand what it's about. But that was our secret. Grabbing onto a product in which we were the only game in town, we were ahead of the crowd, ahead of the curve, and we did very, very well in it. And plus, like I said to you, the coincidental thing of breaking into South Africa, which helped us to have a very global and international feel of this young new company that was taking executives to South Africa, later on to the United States and to the UK. And that was different, that was fresh. And we had a lot of young, at that time, young upwardly mobile executives that were doing things very much along the lines of we now have upwardly mobile young people in the digital world. And if anybody's going to ask me, go and do to those people in the digital world, the new entrepreneurs that we have, go and provide a service to them very much the way we provided a service to the new generation banks 28, 30 years ago.
This will be our final question. I know you could then add your final message to young Africans. Ayeni James Seniola says, what's your advice for young entrepreneurs in Nigeria and Africa? What should we be looking out for, sir? And then you can give us your final thoughts as well, sir.
Okay. I tell a lot of young people, entrepreneurs and so on, that first of all, there's once I had to give an apology to young people because when we were much younger, we came out of university, there was usually a job waiting for you. A lot of young people come out today, there is no job waiting, really, and we ask them to go out and be entrepreneurs. That's very unfair. But then again, we say go and be entrepreneurs, and we don't even tell them how it is that they can be entrepreneurs. We're all very familiar with the term of value value systems. That is, whereby you have a whole process of taking one step at a time and being part of a value chain. Value chain was the word I was looking for. You got to be able to sit down and look at value chains. You got to be able to look at the whole process and break it into little components. You've then got to decide that when I look at each component, what role can I play in this value chain of activities? How can I grab this little part of this 10-stage value chain, take one part and become an expert in it? And that's why you find out that a lot of people have moved into agriculture and agro-processing, because they've been successful in that, because they are identifying what role to play in the value chain that exists. So from the farmer, okay, from the farm to the fork, that is from farm to the table, what role can I play? And you've got to have that same attitude in every other sphere of business. Look at the value chain. Look at the different steps that are taken to transform a service eventually into a product. And when you do that, say, what role can I play? Where is the gap? Where can I offer a service? And if you look around you today, okay, if you look around you today, successful entrepreneurs, that's what it is that they look at. And one other thing I want to talk about is this concept of innovation, because you asked me to go out and be innovative. Innovation is defined as the next level of customer convenience. And I tell my people in the firm all this time, innovation is the next level of customer convenience. If you think of anything that has been innovated, it's somebody has sat down and say, how can I make it convenient for the customer that's involved in this? And the example I gave in the old days was that, look, when I was much younger, you wanted to change the channel on the television. I was the youngest person in the room. My brothers and sisters would tell me, hey, Foluso, go and change the channel on the television. This was many, many years ago. You have to go and change it. Now, they say, why get up? Technology has allowed me to conveniently push a button to change the channel. I want to change the temperature of an air conditioning system. Years ago, you had to go there and adjust the switch. Now you can do it, electronically. So the same thing applies when you're trying to find something in which you want to be entrepreneurial about. How can I create convenience for the customer? So, I sell shoes. I say, okay, fine, everybody's selling shoes, but hey, you know what? Wow, I will deliver the things to you. So you look at entrepreneurs today and all you young folks, how can I make my service increasingly convenient to the customer? And that's why technology is working today. I want to transfer money. Years ago, you had to go and write a check and deposit the check. Today, you push a button and it's done. I want to know the balance of my bank account. Years ago, you had to go physically to the bank and look at it. But technology is saying you can push a button and it's done. And that's why people who are in the digital world, they are now pushing to the ultimate, to its limits, the concept of convenience. Okay, I can jump on a plane, book my ticket online. I can get to a hotel, book my room, not even say hello to the people at the reception. Walk straight to my room, use my phone to open the door. All convenience. When I finish and I'm going, I just walk out of the room and I go. I don't stop at reception. All about convenience. So that's it, folks. Innovation, convenience, value chain. Look at it. Now, in terms of just wrapping up, I just say that I know.
Go ahead, sir. Please go ahead, sir. It's not your time. Well, go ahead, please feel free. We're jotting down.
No. I just think that when you look at all said and done, first of all, it's really tough for young people, but at the same time, we exist we've got phenomenal opportunities in this country. I was at a session with a group of people talking about the new the plan that the government has, the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan. And in it, there were different aspects of this plan that the Vice President was talking to us about at a closed session. And in one of the presentations that was made, there's this plan to build 300,000 housing units in Nigeria as part of this program. But what struck it for me was the man said, he said, if you take 300,000 housing units, he said that translates to so many million windows. He said it translates to so many million doors. He said it translates to so many million door hinges. If I remember, it was 17.1 or 17.3 door hinges that you need. So what is it? You've taken the whole concept, and somebody says, oh, we want to build houses, and you say, well, I can't build a house. But the point is, hey, can I supply the window panes? Or can I go and set up a business making just making door hinges? Can I set up business making just window handles to open windows? And that's the way we need to look at things. So we have tremendous opportunities that exist for us in this country. We just need to think about it. Then obviously we face issues about financing and funding and all that. But that again is a better problem to have, that you just don't have any idea of what to do in the first place. So starting off, decide whether you want to do a one-man business or you want to build an institution. If you want to build an institution, then it means you're going to be spending more money than you would want to in helping to establish it. I mentor a young nephew of mine, and he was literally complaining to me that he's spending a lot more money putting in these processes and these structures and so on, whilst his colleagues in other similar businesses were out there buying their cars, etc. And I said, well, it's just left to you. If you want to build a lasting institution, fine. So the mindset of putting in structures and processes and things that stand time is important, because that's what's killing us in the country. We don't have institutions in this country. The institutions we have, they're not sustainable. We have issues with the people that work in it, and we have issues with the systems that exist. And because the people aren't right and the systems aren't right, the institutions, they fail us all the time. And you name it, you look around us, look at what's been happening in the last few days. The institutions, they fail us because the people fail us, and the systems that are supposed to manage and control them, they fail us as well. So, having said that, there's so many things that we could touch on, but I think I've covered as much as I would like to, and I just hope you've all been able to pull out from it things that are relevant. Go out and be brave. Decide what you want to do. Look and see what it is that gives you energy. Don't be discouraged. You've got to sit down and think through. One of the advice is don't do it alone. Get a group of friends, 2, 3, 4 people, come together to do these things. When you're on your own, it becomes tough. But 3, 4 people together, you might not end up together. It doesn't matter. It's kicking off that's important. The strong will survive. The weak ones will fall by the wayside. It doesn't matter. I talk about, other things. Find that issues about succession, going back to that. It's not the people that are below you that will succeed you when you start off. They're all going to grow up and go away. There's so many people that in our lifetime we thought that they would be there for us, but they've grown up. We become victims of your own success. They become so successful, they move on and do other things. But that's the way life is. That's the way life is. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking to the former chairperson of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the founder, the better, the midwife, and the chairperson of Phillips Consulting Limited, PCL, also chairman of many boards and organizations. We're so grateful, sir, for your time, for your insight. I think everybody has been inspired. Simon Tekuna says, take advantage of value change and innovate by improving customer convenience. I think that was a take home for me as well. Adejumo says, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. If you're watching, make sure you write a comment, say thank you. I see all the thank yous on the Instagram, but I can't project them on this one. So if you're watching from here, make sure you put, I see Dr. C.O. Guson. I think that's Dr. Guson from Oxbridge College. Thank you, ma'am, for your comment. Whatever difference you decide to make, stay with it. We're very grateful, sir, for your thoughts, for sharing with us, and for inspiring us. And we can only wish you both the best. Everyone is saying thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the time. B. Phillips says some very insightful points being made. Thank you, Bean Philip. From Instagram, Mary Pichi says, thank you, sir. God bless you. Comedian Extreme says, God bless you. Sheil Moses says, God bless you. Sholakwe, I see all of your comment. Adelaja Ibrahim says, thank you, my chairman. Konyi, thank you, FOP. I am COVID inspired. Konya Ajayi. Akisoya Michael says, thank you so much, sir. I'm really grateful. Ajetu Mobiola Rewaju Major says, thank you, sir. Femi Lufudia from Twitter. Femi says, thank you, sir. Konyi says B. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Tayo Lay says, thank you. I've made so many notes. Olufemi Aladejare says, thank you, sir. God bless you and yours. Samson Abidemi Ajayi, I know from Kwara State, says, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, FOP. God bless you, sir, for your time. And we hope that after all this COVID, when we have the big mega CovInspiration offline session, we will get a chance to actually draw more from your experience. You are a trailblazer, and we pray that God will continue to bless you. I think our key takeaway for most of us is innovation is consumer convenience. You know, if you focus on consumer convenience, that's really what your innovation is about, then that's the value that you're able to add and prosperity will come your way. We're very grateful to all our viewers. Thank you for your data. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, and we're taking it up another notch. God bless you. Thank you so much, FOP. God bless you all.
Israel. Thank you, Israel. Thank you.